Hey dog sport handlers, welcome to the Canine Handler Fitness Podcast. I'm your host, Liz Joyce, your go-to expert for all things dog sport fitness. Whether you're running agility, doing protection work, tackling search and rescue, handling a tough tugger, or just looking to build strength for a lifetime of adventures with your dog, remember, you are half the team, and I'm here to help you stay strong, mobile, and injury-free. Join me as I break down the unique demands of handler fitness, speed, strength, endurance, and everything you need to perform at your best, both in and out. Let's stay strong, stay in the game, and keep doing.
Hey y'all, and I just wanted to give you a quick heads up because this podcast was recorded when I was on a list for a puppy, and things have changed in my life since then. I decided to adopt an adult dog. Well, she's more of a teenage dog. She is 1 year and 8 months old. So while this podcast isn't exactly relevant for where she is at physically in her development, I hope that this is going to be a really helpful tool for you and a resource for you when you get new puppies. Kelly has a ton of really helpful hints and tips that make bringing a puppy into your home just so much safer, and she's packed with brilliance as usual. I've been getting a lot of questions about my puppy, so I'm just going to tell you really quick. And I know she's not a puppy, but Shade Weitzel said the youngest dog in the house can still be called the puppy. So I've decided I'm going to have a puppy who's my puppy. Her name is Bree. She is a 40-pound Malinois, but I also have a male dog. He's the youngest male dog, so he can still be the puppy too. So Bree comes from the Belgian Shepherd Rescue of Canada. We are her fourth home. So I'm really looking forward to this being her very last home. She is sweet as pie. I chose an adult dog because my lifestyle is challenging. It would be very challenging to have a puppy at this time. And with this breed of dog, at this age, I know what I'm getting in terms of her temperament, and I really like everything about her. She is sweet. She has an off switch. She is really trainable, which isn't going to surprise you at all. And she's extremely socially savvy. Her and Levi are getting along well out on walks when had them off leash a few times together and leashed many times together. And they're getting along fairly fine. We do not have them loose in the house as of yet, but that is going to be coming soon-ish. And I can't wait to share more of our adventure with you. Again, I got her so that we could do agility together, and I just really adore her. She's been sleeping with me, and I've been waking up with one arm over my chest, a little tiny fox head tucked in my chin, and she's just all things sugar and definitely all things spice too, and I'm here for it. Anyhow, I want to just give you that quick little intro because we talk about my puppy. I am not going to be getting a puppy. I got an adult dog, and I also still want to make sure that I'm sharing Kelly's brilliance with you, so enjoy.
Welcome. Today I'm joined by canine fitness expert Kelly Daniel to talk all things puppy fitness and structure, basically how to build an athlete from the ground up. And whether you just brought a new puppy home or you're planning your next agility prospect or any dog sport prospect, Kelly's going to help us understand what to look for early on, how to develop healthy movement patterns, and when it's safe to start increasing physical demands. I'm waiting for a new puppy myself, and my goals with her are to get into agility, which I know is a high adrenaline and high impact sport with a fairly high risk of injury. And y'all know how I feel about injuries. So I can't wait to pick her brain about what really matters in those first few weeks and months to set her up for success. And if you're like me, what can we do to help our furry friends live long and comfortable lives? So thanks so much for joining us today, Kelly. And I'd love it if you could introduce yourself, your dog, maybe what inspired you to pursue canine fitness as a career path, and what's lighting you up in this field lately.
Hey, thank you for having me. I'm really excited to be here. This is a topic that I am also super passionate about, so great to chat about it. So my name's Kelly. I live in the Waikato of New Zealand. I currently have 4 dogs of my own. So I have 2 working Cocker Spaniels, a Border Collie, and a little Fox Terrier cross Chihuahua type thing. So I started doing canine fitness training because I was doing a lot of trick training and agility training with my first dog. He was a Husky cross Border Collie called Brody, and he was getting really sore. I was spending a lot of money at the physio and chiropractor to keep him sound. And what I realized was the way that I was teaching him the tricks were not doing his body much good. And they were kind of causing more harm than good. So I kind of looked at alternative ways of teaching tricks that were kind of on his body. And that really led me into canine fitness training because it's essentially training tricks, but for a specific purpose and being a little bit more geeky with form and structure while they're doing sort of those exercises.
This is why you and I get along. We're both super geeky about that stuff.
Yeah, I know. I love it.
And wait, I wanted to ask you one more thing. I'd love to hear about what's really lighting you up. What are you working on lately that's new or exciting? What kinds of things are you like waking up and you just can't wait to dig into lately?
Well, I recently finished a qualification in exercise rehabilitation and I'm studying hydrotherapy. So my focus is kind of shifting a little bit from sports performance dogs, which is really my passionate area. I really love to help performance dog teams make sure they're fit and sound and strong for their sports. But I've shifted recently to looking at preventing injuries and what to do for these sports teams when injuries occur. So I think it all goes together really well because unfortunately for the majority of sports teams, there will be some injuries along the way. But I think we can do a ton to, one, be proactive and try and prevent or decrease the chances of these happening. Two, do canine fitness training as preventative, but it's also preparing you for those things you might need to do if rehab is required. So three, if you need rehab, you already have the skills to perform it really well. So rehab should go a lot smoother and faster. I like those kind of combinations of concepts between preparing sports dogs for their sports, but also preparing them for if rehab needs to occur.
That's brilliant. I remember one of your dogs recently went in for surgery and you did a whole host of exercises. It was a whole regime about prepping her for surgical, rehabilitation. I thought that was just brilliant.
Yeah, and I mean, part of it's cooperative care as well, because when we have these sports dogs, they often have lots of feelings and are high intensity. And if I don't want to take Flurry's stitches out, she will not allow me to take those stitches out. She has opinions and she has attitude. So a big part of prep isn't just the physical side, it's the mental side. I want to make sure she's prepared for reduced activity. I want to make sure she's prepared to walk nicely on the lead. And I want to be able to do the cooperative care side of caring for her post-injury that I can do instead of having to drive to the vet clinic to have it done. I think that's important.
I agree with you 100%. Any way you can prep your big feeling dog to handle the world on, by and large, is a great thing to do.
Yeah.
And we're here to talk about puppies because I had my first puppy of my own 10 years ago. And this is going to be my next squishy, fat belly, milk breath. I just can't wait in quite a long time. And I have learned so much and I'm doing my best to bring home a puppy that is going to be amazing for me, for sport, for life, temperamentally, and also my big passion in life is fitness related. So I can't wait to pick your brain about puppies and what kinds of things I should or shouldn't be doing. And I love the title of this series, Asking for a Friend. So Kelly, I'm just asking for a friend. When you're evaluating a litter, what do you look for in a puppy from a structural or a fitness perhaps perspective? Do you keep in mind the types of dog sports that the human is going to be doing with them and approach their structure from that standpoint? Or is it kind of you like this type of structure in sport puppies just by and large? And I'd love to hear, what do you do?
So first and foremost, if I'm looking at litters, I'm going to first really carefully look at the structure of any related individuals that I can. Structure has a large genetic component, obviously, because the body is coded for from DNA. So I'm going to look at the parents. I'm going to look at the grandparents. If I can access photos of them to have a look at their structure and videos of them moving, that's going to give me a really good insight to potential of the litter. Those traits run really strongly. You are going to get generally a combination structurally of your two parents. So whilst we can look at different structures in terms of what's suitable for different dog sports, generally, I'm always going to look for a balanced structure first and foremost. A dog that is in balance will be capable of doing most sports, but the really important thing is that a structurally balanced dog has a decreased chance of injury. I see a ton in some sports that focus on one particular area of the body. So for agility, really well angulated rear end. I see a lot of border collies that have much more angulation and rear end leg length, but often they're out of balance to the front of their body. This creates imbalances in movement, and it also puts lots of pressure on the shoulders, so that increases the risk of injury. You're much more likely to have smooth movement and really good physical capabilities with a dog that is structurally balanced in terms of their front end and their rear end angulation, and also generally for proportions. So for most dogs, regardless of what breed we're looking at, we would like a dog that has a slightly longer body length than their leg length. If a dog is square, when they move and trot and gallop, their feet hit in the middle. So having a dog with a slightly longer body length allows for smooth gaits where they don't have to compensate with their body. A dog that is square, when they trot and run, if their feet hit in the middle, they'll crab their body, so their rear will go to one side and their front will go in the other direction to avoid those feet hitting. This causes imbalance in muscles and generally means they find things like turning in one direction harder than the other. So balance is first and foremost what I'm looking at in the parents. And then when I look at a litter, I've already decided I want a puppy from that litter because I like the parents. I like their temperament. I like their history of health. I like their history of sports. I like their structure. First and foremost, when I'm looking at a puppy, I try really hard to pick the best structure that I can because everything else we can work on. But we can't change structure. So I'm always going to try best that my heart will allow me to pick a puppy based on structure because that's the one thing I can't mold and shape.
Okay, so we picked our perfect puppy. I'm going to name her Haley. And once I bring Haley home, but I'm asking for a friend, what are the most important physical foundations that we should be focusing on in the first few months? And sidebar, how catastrophic is it if my squishy puppy launches herself off of a couch?
Well, it's going to happen.
It's unavoidable. I know it's going to happen.
So first and foremost, I'm going to prep my house the same way I would for a dog being in rehab. I'm going to prep that for the puppy also.
Rugs?
So I'm going to make, rugs. I'm going to make sure that there are non-slip rugs so that anywhere that dog is going to run, they're not going to slip and slide. Or if they're going to jump down from something, they're not going to slip and slide and land on hard surfaces. I'm going to use puppy gates and puppy pen to make smaller areas, so they don't get huge speed up when they're running. I'm going to use the puppy gates to reduce the space that my dog can sprint in. I'm also going to make sure I've set up an area that has less obstacles, a non-slip surface. So currently my spaniels, including my one that has orthopedic issues, they hang out in my carpeted room. There's less stuff for them to jump up and jump down from. We've got a gate on the side so they can't run and slide on the wood floor that's in the next room. So I'm going to set up the space first and foremost. I'm going to have a puppy pen with a crate attached so that I can ensure that the puppy has some quiet time where they can't jump, they can't sprint, they can't slip. When I get the puppy home, I'm going to first teach them some skills that are required for safety. I'm going to teach them to come to a treat. I'm going to teach them to wait at a door and not push through, mash themselves at a door. And I'm going to teach them the same stuff at a puppy gate as well. I don't want my dogs to, and one of my spaniels, we still work on this frequently because he's terrible at it. He will literally smash through a door and he will smash his shoulders and his hips and his knees into it, because running is more valuable than going through that door nicely. So I'm going to work on those first and foremost. I'm going to work on putting a leash on and walking nicely on leash. I hate it. I hate training that, but it is required to keep that puppy safe. When we've got those kind of foundations for safety in the house, I'm going to start to work through my essential fitness foundation skills. They're all appropriate for puppies. They're all foundations, not only for fitness, but for sports and for rehab if that's required. So my foundation fitness skills, and I like to have a range because with a puppy, I do not want to do very long sessions. I do not want to do highly repetitive sessions. So I'm not going to pick one and do that 3 times a day for a week. That's going to be too repetitive. Instead, I'd rather have a range of exercises and do a little session on one and then a little session on another. I'm varying the type of physical activities that those dogs are doing, those puppies are doing.
What would you consider to be a good time length for a fitness-related session for a puppy who's, let's say she's 3 months old?
There used to be a rule of thumb, 5 minutes per month of age, but it's not really based on any data or any good information other than some people like to have numbers.
Well, it's easier when there's numerical guidelines, but I'm also imagining you're probably going to tell me to just watch the puppy, and when she's tired, that's probably a little bit too much.
Pretty much. I tried it in a session, have one thing that's physically demanding and a couple of things that I can go to if my puppy still needs to work for their brain, but their bodies are getting tired. So I generally will plan a fitness thing and then maybe a cooperative care and then maybe a sports foundation skill so that I've got options. And then I can stop if I need to, if I'm seeing signs of fatigue in a session. So in any dog, signs of fatigue, generally what I'm going to see is 1, the dog sitting or lying down. 2, them slow to offer behaviors that I know that they can do or offering alternative behaviors. And then 3, physical signs of fatigue like tongue hanging out, like swollen and hanging out and panting and moving slower. That's the general fatigue things that I'm looking for. This is hard if you have a working breed dog, so you have to look for very small signs.
Yeah, they lie to you. They're liars.
Well, yeah, they are. They will work till they die,
yes.
basically.
How are you? I'm great.
Yeah. So we have to be really careful looking for those signs of fatigue. We have to decide for the puppy because most of the time the puppy will want to keep going, even though they shouldn't.
That's really good advice. So, along those lines, like how much activity is too much at this stage and like maybe by age ranges? And we already talked about some signs that puppies are overdoing it. But, like I was saying, working breed dogs are liars. They will lie through their teeth at you. Are you tired? No, I'm fine. How much do you prioritize going for walks on leash versus time in the woods? And when do you start introducing things like going to the woods to a puppy? How long do you let them go hiking or walking? And how much elevation do you allow them to do? Do you have any advice for my friends that like to hike with their dogs?
I guess first and foremost is free exercise. So moving over natural terrain. The research shows this is of benefit to help your dog build muscle and strength and help their bodies. Obviously, there's a point to which we can do too much of it. So with a puppy, I'm looking at incorporating, hopefully in their day, some free exercise off leash where they can control their pace, they can control where they go, and they can control what they do. Because they're a puppy, obviously I'm going to incorporate lead on and off and recalls in that as well because I need that for life skills. And then I will usually try and incorporate some formal training time. Generally, the type of exercise that causes damage is sort of more forced, longer exercise. For a young dog would be putting them on lead and taking them for a really long walk. They can't control their speed, they can't control their gait, and they can't control the direction that they go. In saying that, there's a lot of research that shows that isn't necessarily harmful, but I'm of the opinion that I'd rather be careful and allow them to build muscle and strength without damaging their joints. A medium to large breed dog, we always talk about growth plates closing as being the sign of them finishing growing, but the reality is that they are not solid until quite some time after the growth plates close because their long bones grow, the growth plates close, and then the soft tissue finishes developing to support those joints.
Oh, like
so
all the... Wow.
Yeah. So the ligaments and the tendon and the muscle. So example, my Border Collie, so he's currently my biggest dog. He jumps 500 agility height in New Zealand. He's about 14, 15, 16 kgs, depending on how muscly he is. He finished growing, I think, in terms of height and his growth plates at around 16, 17 months. He was not physically mature in terms of his strength and his muscle until 2.5. And he's not a huge dog. So I think, there is no strict rule. I think it's been sensible with thinking about in each day, how much free exercise are they getting? How much structured exercise are they getting? Am I slowly and sequentially building that? And then after that exercise, how are they? Are they exhausted? Do they sleep for a really long time? If so, you've probably overdone it. Are they looking stiff after? Because little puppies can look stiff if you do too much exercise because they don't have enough muscle to support them so they can get sore. So it's this balance between meeting their needs, building some muscle, but not overdoing it and damaging those developing joints. In particular, with those younger puppies, what I see too much of is people starting dog sports specific training too early and too much turning. A young dog's elbows and knees are really kind of the last joints that finish really solidifying and getting support with the muscles. So they're most at risk, in my opinion, of injury and doing damage to your young sports dogs if you're doing too much young. And what I see a lot of sports puppy doing is a whole bunch of like agility sequencing on the flat. It's on the flat. There's no jumping. It's fine. No, it's not fine because that dog is turning at high speed. That's putting a high amount of pressure on elbows and it's putting a high amount of pressure on knees. That was a really long answer to, I'm sorry, I can't tell you, but try and slowly increase free exercise and structured exercise slowly over your puppy's younger months.
This kind of blew my mind because I had obviously thought about growth plates, but I hadn't considered all of the soft tissue and like ligaments around joints that would be supportive. So what are some things that you look for in your dogs to know that for you, you'd be comfortable with maybe adding some higher speed agility sequences, even if it's on the flat, knowing, of course, they've been past the age that their growth plates would have closed, but what are some things that you look for in terms of muscling that make you confident? Like for me, I'm imagining that I see my puppy be able to coordinate herself running through the woods, for example. Like, okay, this dog can move her body and she has balance and she looks like solid all the time.
So with my young dogs, I'm basically prepping them for sports through their fitness training. So I wouldn't be doing sequencing or higher level, more physically intense agility or sports specific skills until they can do the equivalent skills already in fitness. So I'm looking for, can they do really nice smooth cavalier poles? Can they coordinate themselves on the corner when they're turning those poles? Can they do movement patterns and show balance and coordination and good proprioception over those balance pathways? Can they do a really good gym squat sit to stand? If so, we're engaging the correct muscles in the correct form to start foundation jump work. So I tend to prep my dogs for my sport-specific skills in a fitness context. I can control it. I can reinforce the correct muscle engagement that I'd like to see in movement patterns. And I can reinforce those patterns before we start the sports-specific training. It makes the sports training easy and fast because I've already learned correct form and correct muscle engagement for those skills.
That's brilliant. So as this puppy grows, what kinds of things do you do to encourage balance, coordination, and confidence without putting too much stress on their developing body and like the human fitness equivalent that I work with, the people who I work with who are maybe at a beginner stage? I think about it like building a robust movement library. So like how many different ways can we get your body moving, picking things up, standing up onto things? Like how many different ways can we get you moving comfortably, efficiently, and under really good control with good form where it's safe? What kinds of things do you do with puppies? Do you put them on balance equipment? I'm not saying I would. I'm just asking for a friend.
No, I don't, because their joints aren't stable yet. Mm-hmm. So my foundation fitness skills, you can do all of them on the flat or stable platforms. And the reality is that even an older dog that's starting fitness training, I probably wouldn't put them on wobble gear for a good couple of months to a year anyway, until they've got really solid foundations on the flat and on stable equipment. So the foundation skills that I'm looking at in terms of fitness are, can they front foot target? Can they back foot target? Can they stand nicely on equipment in a great stand? Can they individually paw target? Do they understand stillness? This is the biggest thing for sports dogs because we generally pick dogs that like to move. We think it's exciting when they chase the toys. We like to see them move, but they need to be able to stand still and they need to be able to sit still. Can they move to the side, so side step? Can they move themselves backwards and can they move themselves forwards? That's the foundation skills for every other fitness exercise, but also most of the sports that we have to do. There are foundation skills for those also. And from those foundation skills, I can build any number of fitness skills.
That's great. I love how foundations in one area of dog training bleed into foundations for a different area. And it just makes it a little easier to train all the things.
I want to note as well, the very first thing I always teach my puppies is front foot targeting. And this isn't necessarily for fitness because you can get the best puppy photos from a really young age without teaching a weight, without teaching a stay. If you teach them front foot targeting and generalize this to other objects like a leaf or a stone, you get the best puppy photo. And we all know how hard that is.
I was going to say on the count of 3, tell me why. Pictures.
It's important. We want to have the cute photos.
Oh, yeah.
Like we do.
Those fat bellies last for too short amount of time.
I know.
Do you have any guidelines about what age it is or other types of proficiency at movement patterns that you want to look for when you're starting to introduce more intentional exercises, like beyond the foundations of can this dog move backwards and can they move to the side and can they target things and Can you give me some examples of what that looks like in practice?
Yeah, so because there's a lot of skills that we can put together from these foundation skills, I have no problems with young dogs progressing from those foundation skills as long as it is low session times, low frequency, and stable equipment. So when my dog shows they can do all those foundation skills, they understand when to move and when to be still. Then I start putting those skills together. So I'll work on posture exercises. I'll start to work towards some movement-based exercises, so movement patterns and cavallini poles. And then I'll start to integrate some movement-based strength exercises. That's the main areas. I'm looking at stillness and posture and holding position, stability. I'm looking at moving, so actually moving on stuff. And then I'm looking at movement skills for strength, so a gym squat, so a sit to stand, a down to stand, those specific exercises. So you can start those as soon as your young dog has mastered those foundations. I'm just going to keep those sessions low, those reps low, and keep varying the specific exercises I'm doing. So we're not doing highly repetitive, repeating the same exercises. So I might work on those foundation fitness skills for a couple of months. And then I'd be really comfortable working towards those fitness exercises as opposed to the foundation exercises with a 5, 6, 7-month-old puppy. So it means there's stuff you can do that's appropriate for your dog that's going to be good and not cause harm. One thing I want to note, you're getting a girl puppy, right?
Yeah.
So what I want to note is, this is really hard to find research on, but it has become more relevant recently with more people keeping their dogs entire for longer. When you have a girl dog, when she comes into season, that is going to significantly impact her laxity of her joints because of the hormone influence. So we have to be really mindful of what we're doing with our female puppies whilst they're in season and immediately after. Racing greyhounds, they will not do any fitness or any training or any racing for 2 months after the dog's season. And that's because of the joint laxity. So the only place I could find published guidelines to post-season exercise was a greyhound racing training book. I know that in my spaniel, Florrie, so Florrie is my complex dog, she had clinically perfect knees until 10 months old. She had her first season. She had a really weird season, so she bled for 35 days. Yeah, we ended up going to a reproductive vet and doing progesterone testing, and literally that huge hormone surge actually made her knees loose enough to start to luxate. A lot of people are starting agility sequencing with 9 or 10 months old puppies. If I had started sequencing or jump work with her, I would have probably blown her cruciates because of how lax her knees were. So if you have a female puppy, I think it's really worth considering having some things in mind you can do with them in season and post season that are appropriate, just in case they are one of those dogs that is very hormone influenced and bendy. So what I do with any dogs that I know have a large hormone surge in season or even pregnancy and post-pregnancy is lots of stand and balance work for stability and less free movement that can put their joints at risk.
I want to ask you some questions about hormones because my boy, Levi, I was required to neuter him or de-sex him before he was 2 as a part of the contract. And I'm also required to de-sex my female puppy.
Okay.
Here's my hot question for you, right? What if I was required to de-sex her, but I do have the option of an ovary-sparing spay? Do you have some considerations for people like me who are getting female puppies? At what age is it fairly safer to do that? Do you suggest ovary-sparing spays? Do you have some insight into that?
Do you have a specific age by which you have to spay her?
2.
Okay. So the research shows that basically if we spay or neuter before 2, we do increase the chance of joint issues like cruciate rupture later in life. So ideally with sports dogs, we'd like to leave them entire until at least 2. I think looking at the exact age that you spay or neuter is going to depend on the breed, because although a lot of things I try not to look at breed specifics, there is a lot of trends within breeds to when they physically mature with that. So 2 dogs of the same size of different breeds might not necessarily physically mature at the same age because there is variation in how fast that happens. So when we look at the size of the dog, I'm going to look at the breed and the history and the lines in terms of when they tend to finish growing and muscle up and be strong. My goal is to wait until they're over 2, if you can, to spay or neuter. But if you can't, then look at hormone sparing surgeries, like instead of a neuter, you can do
vasectomy.
Yep, that's the one. Or you can do, like you said, ovary sparing surgery. Honestly, if you can wait until 2, if you can push it out a month or 2, then the problem with an ovary sparing surgery, I love that it maintains the reproductive organs and the hormone influence. I think that's really important for sports dogs. But you are still having to deal with them being in season.
Right, which is like a good one side, not so great on the other side.
Yeah, so they can't get pregnant, but they do still have the hormone surges that male dogs will recognize. And that means you're going to have to manage them.
Sounds awful. And
yeah, I know.
Is there a huge benefit to keeping my female puppy in, like, let's say in a crazy scenario, I was like, hey, breeder, I would like to keep my female puppy intact until she's 5. Is there that much benefit to her physical wellness from a fitness standpoint as she gets older, if I were able to negotiate that?
Not really past 2. So I think if you can hold out till 2, especially with the size of dog that you're looking at, if you had a large or giant breed dog, I would negotiate to maybe wait till 3. But personally, in terms of balancing both that hormone influence, finishing growth, and not having to deal with seasons, I would probably, if I know that I had to spay, I'd probably try and opt to wait to 2 or 2.5 and spay over an ovary sparing surgery, purely because I don't want to have to deal with those hormone surges. That would be what I would do. The research shows once you get past 2, the research that we do have, there's no additional benefit in terms of their body to keeping them entire. You do also have an increased risk of mammary cancer and some other cancers keeping them entire past 5. So, yeah. So I think if you can wait to 2 or 3 to spay them, that's probably what I would do.
All right. Any of y'all who have had female dogs like I have had, and I know you that have had seasons, it's like maybe not the coolest thing to live through.
Especially if you want to do sports with them. Like it can be, some dogs aren't consistent, and having to like book in doing seminars or doing things and then having to cancel them, like it's a pain in the butt.
Oh, it's a pain in the butt.
I live with too many dogs as well. I already have an entire male, and I don't really need more hormones involved.
No, you do not. Plus, I have cream-colored carpets at my house, and I'm not going to walk you through this.
Yeah, no.
Okay, I'm getting the grasp of what you're telling me. Go slow, focus on foundations, staying still. I love the idea of setting up. I was thinking about a puppy pen from a standpoint of having her contained, but I hadn't really thought about it as a space for her to explore that's safe for her body. And I think that that's incredible. I'm going to definitely do that. Here's my question. This is my last question for you. So I'm just going to recap. For someone who's wanting to have a long, healthy, athletic career for their dog, what are the key 3 things that, as a canine fitness professional and someone who works with dogs and has a lot of dogs, what are the 3 key things that you'd prioritize with a puppy in the first 18 to 24 months?
Okay, so number 1, my priority would be a good foundation of training that is broad and not just the sport you intend to compete in. That should include some fitness training and general sports skills, not just agility skills or not just tracking skills. I think that's really, really important for your dog's physical and mental development, but also, you don't know. You might be prepping for just agility, and then something might happen and they might not be able to do that. So having a broad foundation gives you options. So that's number 1, broad foundation of training. Number 2 is be patient. Your 17-month-old dog might look like a grown-up dog, but they are not. I think people start physically intense sports training too early, and I think they do too much of it. Think of your dog's longevity and think of their career and think of their life when they're a 14-year-old dog. If you've done a ton of jump skills and weave poles at 12 months, I can almost guarantee you will see that when they're an older dog. And I want my dogs to be sound and happy for their entire lives, not just when they're doing agility or whatever your sport may be. Number 3, plan to care for their body before you need it. So my dogs do hydrotherapy. My dogs see a physio before they need it. My dogs are doing fitness training and prep for rehab or surgery before they need it. take care of your dog's body. That should be a priority over your sports skills and training in the competition. Have a chance to go to a seminar to do canine fitness training over agility, like do it. That's just as important for your dog to take care of their body as it is to do the sports stuff. They will not only do the sports stuff better, but they'll be a happier, healthier dog for longer.
Brilliant. Which kind of had me thinking really quick. So I went to my hairdresser a couple of weeks ago, and she was dog sitting her sister-in-law's dog. And one of this dog's nails, you're going to die. I almost actually died. One of their nails was 1.5 inches long.
Oh my God.
I died. She's like, maybe they're just doing it on purpose. I was like, go get your nail clip. I clipped the dog's nails. I was like, I'll do it with wire cutters. I don't care. Just get me something. I need to cut these nails. This is crazy. I just had to tell that story because it was just wild.
Nails super important. And that's part of my broad sports foundation training. That includes cooperative care. I am a person that thinks short nails are important. It's super important for how your dog holds their feet and how they move. So my dog's nails get done every week to 2 weeks.
Me too.
And I say that, and one of my dogs, my orthopedic dogs, is a freaking nightmare to do her nails. I've spent hundreds of hours training nails, and she still growls at me and contorts in her body and throws herself like she's a demon inside a dog's body, and this vicious spaniel face going as I do her nails whilst she's licking peanut butter. It's not easy. It is very not easy, but it's important, so we do it. It puts all their joints out of alignment if their nails are too long. So it can impact every single joint up from their toes. It's not good.
No, it's not good. No, it's not good. So, Kelly, last question. This is not my personal trainer. You're all done except for a plank. This is actually my last question. How can people get a hold of you if they've got a puppy coming up? What kinds of things do you have available to help support sports or also pet people that are wanting to do more of this stuff with their puppies or their dogs?
So I guess if you check out my social media, so Hybrid Dog Training and Rehabilitation, I put quite a bunch of videos and information on there for free. I have a variety of courses on Fenzi Dog Sports Academy, and I have some new ones coming up next year that include some puppy and older dog foundations. So I'm looking at adding some new classes to the schedule. And then I have a variety of courses available on my website that you can kind of do at your own time and at your own pace. And that includes some foundation fitness skills. It would be perfect for puppies.
And maybe if your puppy class were to come out in April, maybe I might have a puppy. I'm just saying.
I'll look at my schedule, see if we can make it work.
All right. Well, big thanks to Kelly Daniel for joining me today and sharing her expertise on raising strong, healthy, athletic puppies. I hope this episode helps you feel more confident about what to focus on in these early stages and when to start asking a little bit more from your young dog. And if you love this conversation, make sure to subscribe, share this with your training friends, and also check out Kelly's work. She is brilliant, and I'll have all her links in the show notes. Thanks so much for joining me.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks so much for being here with me today and choosing to spend this time investing in yourself. I hope you feel encouraged to take action. Even the smallest steps forward will add up in ways you couldn't imagine yet. If this episode gave you something to think about or lifted you up, please share it with a friend. You never know who might need these tools today. And remember, for more information, practical tools, resources to help you get stronger and more confident both in and out of the ring, head on over to caninehandlerfitness.com. You can also find me on all the socials under the same name, so come on over and say hi. I'm here to help you build the skills, knowledge, and belief you need to goals. Keep going. And most of all, keep showing up for yourself. You've got this, and I'm cheering you on